Please take your seats and silence your cell phones. Our program is about to begin. Please welcome the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, alongside the CEO of Americas for the Arts, Aaron Harkey.
Well, good afternoon. Let's get this session started. Let's wrap up our conversations. Of course, you can eat, so I expect the noise of silverware, but your conversations will have to wait because we are going to kick off with a really fantastic conversation. I want to turn the podium right now over to our good friend and partner, Aaron Harkey, the CEO of Americans for the Arts. Aaron, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to go off script for just 1 second because I'm walking around Long Beach, and about 20 or so years ago, this was one of my first jobs in the arts, working for the city of Long Beach. I was managing public art projects here. And so it's just been a full circle moment, but really wonderful to be back in this wonderful city. So at Americans for the Arts, we see every day what happens when leadership meets creativity. And no one understands that intersection more than mayors. You know, the arts are not just a nice-to-have amenity. They are the heartbeat of our economies, the identity of our neighborhoods, and the soul of our cities. That's why our decades-long partnership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors means so much to us, and it's why I'm so thrilled to help celebrate a true titan of American art, Ed Ruscha. From his iconic text-based paintings to his unmistakable images of Southern California, Ed has spent his career holding up a mirror to American culture. But today, we honor him not only for what he has created, but for the ways he has brought art into public life. Public art sparks dialogue, builds community identity, and transforms everyday spaces into places of wonder, excitement, and energy. Through his public art projects, Ed has helped make art more accessible, bringing his vision beyond the studio and into the communities we all share and serve. He reminds us that art belongs to all of us. We're incredibly proud to honor Ed Ruscha with the 2026 Citizen Artist Award. And now to share more about this extraordinary honoree, I'm pleased to turn the podium back over to my partner on stage, Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, who has done an extraordinary job curating these artist awards for this conference.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much. And thank you for the partnership we are so grateful to have with Americans for the Arts. Well, my friend Ed Ruscha was born in Omaha, Nebraska. Yes, and I know we have Mayor Gaylor Baird here. I know we have the mayor of Omaha somewhere. But Ed got to Oklahoma City, or at least his family did, as fast as he could. He moved to Oklahoma City a few years later. Ed grew up in Oklahoma City and graduated from Northwest Classen High School in Oklahoma City Public Schools. Upon graduation, he journeyed west in 1956, inspired by the sights along Route 66 and the growing city of Los Angeles. Ed is often grouped with the pop art movement, but like all iconic artists, Ed is a genre unto himself, a true American original. His visual art transcends medium. He might paint simple but thought-provoking words on canvas. He might take a picture of every single building on the Sunset Strip, or he might create an entire room out of chocolate. Ed is a Los Angeles icon, but his legacy goes far beyond LA. He is one of the most celebrated visual artists of his time and has been featured through exhibitions in essentially every major museum on planet Earth. And if you want to have one of his pieces, you may need about $50 million. Most notably, he recently completed major career retrospectives at MoMA and LACMA. It would be impossible to list all of Ed's honors and to capture the magnitude of his legacy. Just Google him later and then marvel that you were in the same room with him today. Ed Ruscha is truly one of the most important visual artists in American history. He is a most fitting honoree, and so with Aaron Harkey, and on behalf of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and Americans for the Arts, it is our honor to present the 2026 Citizen Artist Award to Ed Ruscha. Yeah, right here. All right, we're going to look here at the camera. All right. I think they'll just take pictures until we decide they have to stop. So. If you'll join me for a conversation, Aaron, thank you so much. We'll see you a little later. All right, here, have a seat, Ed. We are so grateful to have you here. An Oklahoma City boy, as I like to think.
All the way, yeah.
So, Ed, much of your work through the decades seems heavily influenced by your fascination with the city of Los Angeles. And by the way, is that the mayor of, yeah, there's Mayor Karen Bass right there. There we are.
Hi, Karen. Voted for you.
You have also explored your fascination with the other trappings of cities along the journey of your life. Your work with gas stations is a great example. This is a room full of mayors. We're kind of obsessed with cities as well. What is it about Los Angeles and other urban environments that continues to act as your muse through the decades?
I never give up on the subject, and I live in it, and it started in Oklahoma, and as you know, and I emigrated to this area, and it was one big experience, believe me. Yeah, so I love urban stuff and iconography, imagery, I love it all. So it's just sort of the basis of my work.
Yeah, for sure. You have done a lot of murals in cities. I think you were just mentioning backstage you've done some work in libraries. You know, obviously murals, public art, these are the most accessible forms of art. You've had murals in LA and New York. And I promise we're going to work on some murals in Oklahoma City. That's very important to me. I'm talking to our friend Mary Dean about that all the time. It is also worth noting that there have been murals painted of you in Los Angeles. That's one of the reasons you're such an icon. You've also recently completed a monumental ceiling piece in the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City that was dedicated just a couple of years ago. Though that specific piece in the embassy is not quite as publicly accessible, its existence certainly speaks to our nation's aspirations for the promulgation of public art in public spaces and in public buildings. Similarly, you had a piece placed in the White House during President Obama's administration. Why are murals and other forms of public art so important to have in our cities?
It's just a contribution that an artist might want to make, and so I ended up working and putting my imagery in urban areas like Miami. I did the Miami-Dade Public Library with about 60 paintings. And then I did the Denver Public Library,
Denver's
1996. And then American Embassy, Mexico City. Yeah, it was all a part of my package.
Yeah. And you were just telling me backstage about the piece that was in the Obama White House. Maybe share that story.
I painted a picture called Indecision, and it said, I think maybe I'll do this. And apparently Obama said, hey, that's me. I have a hard time deciding things. I want that painting in the White House.
Yeah, well, that pretty well captures it. We have to make a lot of decisions in our roles, so we certainly can relate to that. Now, Ed, you have occasionally done political statements and social statements, you know, and it's always a bit subtle. It's supposed to be thought-provoking and kind of open-ended. You know, how do you feel about using art as a medium for social statements?
Whenever it comes necessary, I'll do it. I mean, what do you call political? I mean, I remember doing it in 1983. Is that when the Los Angeles Olympics happened?
1984, yeah.
And I said, I made a work that said, I'll be anywhere except in Los Angeles in the 1983 Olympics. Because people expected the city to be Armageddon and overrun and ruined. And it was a very quiet event. It turned out to be very quiet, so.
All right. Well, Mayor Bass may want to dig that piece out and update it. Ed, 4 years ago, my wife, Rachel, and I, who's right here, brought you an American elm sapling that came from the survivor tree at the Oklahoma City National Memorial. Now, a lot of our mayors this year went to the Oklahoma City National Memorial when I hosted a meeting in OKC. And of course, you know the history of that. In 1995, you know, it was the site of the deadliest domestic terror attack in American history. 168 people were killed. This tree across the street in a parking lot was scarred and, you know, not a major factor in the aftermath, but people probably just assumed it was dead. And then it came back and it was beautiful and people began to embrace it as a symbol, and we called it the survivor tree. So I think we got a picture there of that day 4 years ago when I gave you that sapling. The survivor tree, yeah, there it is. The survivor tree obviously means a lot to us in Oklahoma City, and as a son of OKC, I knew it would mean a lot to you as well. And I know you cultivate a great many trees of all kinds behind your studio in Culver City. How is our survivor tree doing?
Well, let me tell you, I mean, when anyone would come to my studio in Culver City, I would go through the story about the gift you left me with. And I care deeply for that tree. I mean, it's just, I would water it cautiously, and I love that tree. And some time passed, that was 4 years ago, that you brought that, and the tree has grown a bit since then, but it's still in a pot.
Yeah.
And I was traveling for a while, and it missed one of its waterings. I came back, and I mean, the leaves are starting to dry up, and I thought only the worst for this tree.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. I thought it was dead. So I plunged it in water, gave it a lot of water, and waited, and it looked sick for a whole week. And then finally, little leaves come back on it, and it kept coming back. I mean, leaves were getting profuse in this tree. And so it just roared back and it's never looked better. And it reminded me that you offered me a sort of a life lesson to when you have something that you really appreciate, it requires nourishment to do that. And it was kind of like a life lesson. And thank you for that lesson.
Wow,
But the tree looks great now.
Well, that's why it's the survivor tree.
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed that you have shared many lessons with all of us. I'm honored that I could have shared one with you through that gift. So thank you for taking care of it. Thank you for being such a amazing inspiration to us in Oklahoma City of where life can take you. We are incredibly proud of you. I was honored to give you the key to the city a few years ago and declare Ed Ruscha Day. And I want you to know that you're always welcome back. You'll be able to use that key to get into the gates anytime. and it's always Ed Ruscha Day in Oklahoma City as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Ed. Let's hear it one more time for our Citizen Award winner, Ed Ruscha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Please welcome Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller, Columbia, South Carolina Mayor Daniel Rickenman, Laval, Quebec Mayor Stéphane Boyer, and the Director General for Territorial Coordination for the Mexican Ministry of Economy, Marlon Martinez Perez.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to, of course, this tremendous plenary session that we have. And we know that over the past year, we've actually seen renewed trade tensions, unfortunately, all across North America. And while our federal governments work through these negotiations and we seek solutions to these challenges, of course, us as mayors are left to figure out what to do while the federal government continues to make life harder for us when it comes to trade. So for us, we want to continue strengthening our economic ties regardless and maintaining those relationships to help our communities thrive. Now, as mayors, we understand that trade isn't just about national policy. It's truly about jobs and supply chains and manufacturers and businesses, but also families in our city. And it's about literally jobs for those families, and it's about setting up economic opportunity for the next generation. So that's why the Conference of Mayors has been actually so active, working with local leaders to try and bridge these relationships across borders, especially when it comes to our neighbors in Mexico and Canada. So the conference has agreed to have separate types of gatherings, including the North American Trade Summit, which was one of the state-of-the-art, first-of-its-kind subnational diplomacy efforts to reinstill trade during these difficult times. But we all know that fundamentally underneath this, it is in part about tariffs. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today, because tariffs affect us in so many different ways, not to mention the jobs that are behind all of those tariff policies. So I know I'm joined here today with some amazing folks who we introduced earlier. And I want to begin by opening up the floor to our wonderful list of panelists. And we're so grateful to be joined, of course, by Marlon Martinez Perez, Director General for Territorial Coordination for the Mexican government. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, allow me first to begin by extending a more warm greetings from Mexico's Secretary of Economy, Marcelo Ebrard Casabon, who is currently leading efforts and negotiations in the USMCA review process. I would also like to spread my gratitude for this invitation to participate in this important dialogue on the future of economic cooperation and shared prosperity across North America. It is an honor to represent Mexico throughout the Ministry of Economy in a forum that recognizes the essential role of communities and local governments in building trust and regional competition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we also want to welcome all the way from the Quebec-Montreal area, the Mayor of Laval, Mayor Stéphane Boyer. Welcome. Please share a few remarks.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very glad to be here representing Canadian municipalities. I believe the times we are living are hard times. There's a lot of things changing in our communities, economically, with war, with AI, and it's important to find solutions, and it's important to work together to find those solutions. I think we can all import the good ideas that are spreading in different cities and avoiding maybe mistakes that others are doing. And I believe that such places as we are here today is a good place to learn together, to grow together, and to find solutions throughout this rough time.
Thank you so much. Well, of course, we have one of our own mayors we're very familiar with, Daniel Rickenman from Columbia, South Carolina. Why don't we get started and dive in with you, just to start on the home front here. Tell us about the political impact and also the individual impact of the tariff, either original policy or vacillation between policies for you.
Well, I think everybody wants a levelized playing field, right? I think what's really hurting is the continuing of the uncertainty that's happening out there. You know, nobody coming to the table and actually saying, all right, let's get this done, right? The effects are rippling, both in our community. It could cost our automotive industry exports in South Carolina about 85% of its production across the world. So this affects every job across. Our products, we have several companies that produce packaging. A lot of that material comes from Canada and other places, which is affecting. But even personally, for me, the business I'm invested in is down 38%, right? Because a big part of our imports go to Canada, right? And we're seeing between our three countries how important all of these pieces are across. So it's a ripple effect. What I think we want to see, and what I keep hearing from local folks, is we need to get to the table. It's time for the grown-ups to get to the table, and we all need to push it as mayors, as locals, really get everybody to the table, and let's get these tariff deals done, and let's get back to doing what we do best, which is run our businesses and run our cities. Because like you said, we got a whole list of issues to deal with today.
Thank you. Well, Mayor, we know from stateside, historically, most of us really took for granted our relationship with Canada. And what these policies have really shown is just how closely we are tied together in so many ways. How has this affected you on the other side of the border?
Yeah, totally. What's happening right now in Canada is, I think, us as well took for granted this relationship, and we feel like we put all our eggs in the same basket. 75% of Canadian exports goes to US. But now what's happening with the tariffs and the uncertainty is that the Canadian government, municipalities, provincial governments are all pushing through new programs and new budgets to help our businesses diversify their exporting markets. Canada used to, have free trade agreements with Europe, with Asia, with Australia, with a lot of countries in South America. And we used to not use that much those trade agreements because we relied on the States and it was too easy to do business. So now that, with the uncertainty, a lot of Canadian businesses are looking at using more of the free trade agreements that are existing to reallocate their exportation to Europe, Asia. So it's gonna diversify more the economy and make it maybe more resilient. But it's, of course, I think for all Canadian businesses, we would prefer to keep those strong links that are between our communities, between our businesses, because for us it feels so natural to do business in the States. But yeah, we are being pushed to rethink the relations that we used to have.
Well, and Director, from your perspective in Mexico, we know even in Albuquerque, we've been tremendously affected by tariffs. And most of the products that we're looking for are stuck in Mexico. And so tell us what is the latest from your perspective in terms of how these are affecting our trade relationship?
Yeah, sure. Well, Mexico is the country with the highest level of economy integration with the United States. In the world, more than the 80% of our exports are designated directly to the US market. And we know that when tariff measures or signals of trade uncertainty arise, the effects are felt on both sides of the border, in investment decisions, in supply chains, and on the jobs that depend on them. For that reason, on May 27, Mexico formally launched the first round of negotiations for the USMCA review process with the goal of boosting regional competitiveness and providing certainty for workers and businesses. Finally, as Secretary of Economy Marcelo Ebrard has noted, when Mexico, the United States, and Canada work together, all North America is stronger. We're stronger economically, stronger strategically, and more competitive in the global economy. This is why, remind us why integral integration continues to be a strategic advantage for all the three countries.
Thank you, Director Perez. And that makes me also, I think, want to ask you, what is the best thing mayors can do to support your efforts?
Well, as I said, in Mexico, throughout the 2025, we run the public consultations in all 32 states and more than 30 productive sectors. And this is why these consultations let us arrive to the negotiation table with well-informed information, to be more significantly affected from all these aranzels.
Thank you. Well, this has been a laughably short amount of time to talk about tariff impacts. So we're going to begin to wrap up, but let me ask our panelists, what would you share has been the most successful thing that either you've done or you have heard of for a mayor individually to do to help in this situation? And then, so that's one question, short answer. Second question, short answer is, what's the message that you want our federal lawmakers to hear on the American side from you?
I start with what's the message and then what we should be doing. I think the message, and I have a very clear example in my head, is aluminum. I've been talking to some aluminum CEO factory in Quebec, and they've told me, building an aluminum factory costs billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. So even though there's tariffs, we're not gonna invest new billions of dollars to relocate in the States because we already have our factories that have been paid for before in the past. And even beyond the initial investment, the operating cost of hydroelectricity from Quebec, we have the cheapest and greenest energy in America. So even for them, operating cost is much lower. So this puts us in a situation where at the end of the day, we're just, in the States, people would just pay more for aluminum. So what's going on right now, it affects all of us. It affects our city because we are big buyers of material and equipment, but it also affects all our family that are also buying goods. So, I think we are all impacted negatively of what's going on. But what are the solutions? I think we need to keep working together. We need to keep the communication canal open. The current situation will maybe not be permanent. And when we live, turbulence time, when we live a crisis, when things are hard, that's when people are open to rethink how we work together. That's how people are open to challenge status quo and maybe find new paths of working together. And I think that this is what we are doing and we need to be doing. In Canada, we've started to work a lot with the Great Alliance, the Alliance for the Great Lakes. Mm-hmm. And we work with municipalities on both sides of the borders in the States and in Canada together to work on this huge economic corridor that are the Great Lakes and see how can we better work together. So yeah, I think, through the challenge, let's find new ways to work, new ways to be more efficient, to reduce costs, the benefit of our citizens. And let's not forget that this situation will not last forever. There will be, other things coming up.
Thank you. So let's close with your experience, Mayor. You've been so successful in your region with all sorts of different NAFTA partnerships. What's the best thing a mayor can do from your perspective, and what message do you want to send to DC?
Well, I think number one is continue to advocate with our businesses, create partners. We had a great opportunity in Washington as mayors to meet with Canadian mayors and mayors from Mexico together, sharing ideas and making those personal connections, which is important. So we're going to Washington telling the stories about how this is affecting our businesses all the way around, the partnerships, because we can't produce manufacturing without the parts and the pieces that we need from our partners. You brought up aluminum, which is a big part of a packaging company, the Sunoco Products in South Carolina. They're a major part of their supply comes from Canada. So showing how this is having a rippling effect all the way across and affecting workers. We look at Kentucky, what they're having to do today with the distilleries laying off people left and right because 38% of the exports from Kentucky and Tennessee went to Canada, right? So our message is real. It's affecting the folks in our communities left and right, and sharing real stories with partnerships and showing how this trade is so important to our states.
Well, thank you so much, panelists. I know, from our perspective, we are a border town in a sense of all that trade comes, obviously around the southern border for us, but we know that the Conference of Mayors is going to be here to work on this issue. And it's fitting timing, actually, that our new president is going to be from the largest border city.
Yep.
And so stay tuned for more on this from the Conference of Mayors. We know that our workers and our businesses and our community, we depend on partnerships that cross borders and they create true shared prosperity. So we're going to continue to work this issue in DC, but also individually with our own city relationships. And if you don't know a mayor who you're trading with, try and engage with the conference, whether it's the Great Lakes or it's the southern border. There's all sorts of organizations that can help connect you. So thank you to all our panelists, especially those who've traveled so far from Mexico and Canada. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Please welcome the chair of the USCM America 250 Task Force and Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker.
Let me start by saying that the late, great author and teacher, Dr. Maya Angelou, was often quoted as stating that in life, people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never, ever forget how you made them feel. It is with that spirit in mind that I come before you today and ask each of you to join with me in lifting up some mighty praise to the leaders who have helped to make our 94th annual meeting amazing. And I want to start with Long Beach Mayor Rex Richardson. Give the mayor a round of applause. Mayor, you just raised the bar so super high. Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, our president. Give David a round of applause. Thank you for everything, Mr. Mayor. Our incoming president, Todd Gloria from the amazing San Diego. And all of us can appreciate this. Everything goes off without a hitch because of the amazing leadership of Tom Cochran, our executive director, and his awesome team. Give them all a super huge round of applause. Fellow mayors, I am excited to come before you today in 2026 when we are in the midst of celebrating our semi-quincentennial 250th anniversary of our democracy. And I've often been asked in the press, what does it feel like to be a mayor during this semi-quincentennial celebration? And mayors, the only way I can describe it is thinking about a couple who has reached the milestone years of a marriage, 25 years, 50 years, and sometimes they decide that they want to have a renewal of their vows. Well, for me, this 250 years celebration of the democratic principles and values that we hold dear, it's a chance for us to renew our vows. Thinking about that vow renewal, some people get this one wrong. Some people think that our country was literally born on July 4th. Now, I see some lovers of history in the audience, and you know that that is not true. It was actually July 2nd, 1776, the day the Continental Congress voted for independence in Philadelphia. And so now, 250 years later, It's our hope that we will see each of you who are present, every mayor in this room, back in America's birthplace, on that ground and on that exact date. So this is my ask of you today, mayors, and my hope is that I get your answer before you leave. Here's what I'm asking you to do. On July the 1st, I want you to fly in on that evening. I want you to join us at the National Constitution Center for a conversation with Pulitzer Prize winning historian and semi-quincentennial scholar John Meacham. He will be in the house in Philadelphia. Give John Meacham a huge round of applause. Tom Cochran, I don't know how you and team pulled that off. Immediately after that, we are going to have an exclusive reception for mayors to talk and to gather, exchange ideas and thoughts about what this moment means to each of us. And then on the day, D-Day, July the 2nd, at 10 a.m. sharp, I invite you to join us outside of City Hall in Philadelphia. Join us with Todd Gloria, Mayor Holt, Tom Cochran, and mayors who represent cities of 1 million people and towns of 30,000. All of us together, Democrats and Republicans, every region of this country, all of us together on the same ground. Now, while we were planning this, I want you to know, I did not know that there would be such an interest from members of the press to cover our convening of America's mayors in Philadelphia, but I am pleased to let you know that this activity will be broadcast globally in real time, and we are very excited about that because what we will be able to demonstrate is that rural, suburban, and urban America is together, and the mayors who are the doers, the mayors who are the fixers, will be leading the way. And people were really interested when we talked about this because they were saying, is this one group of mayors from one side or the other? We said, no, we're getting together as Mayors United to walk down the same street that our founders walked. We're going to go toward the same building where they actually changed the world, not as rival parties and not as competing interests as mayors across America convene. We will convene as the fixers, the doers, those who are serving and are closest to the people. Why is this important? Because this is exactly what this moment in time in our nation demands. What are we going to see when we're in front of City Hall and we're walking together down Market Street? On the way, we're going to stop by the President's house. This is the place where George Washington lived as the first president of the United States. We're going to see how they lived, worked, and helped to build this country and all of the people. And that means including all of the history, no matter the race, the class, the socioeconomic status, the zip code, the religion, the sexual orientation or identity. We are going to make sure we get an opportunity to explore the full history, and that is what makes our nation so important. When people ask, wow, what a statement, for us, this is a human statement. This is a demonstration showing that if you really want to figure out how we should be trying to move America forward so that she can realize her promise, there's only one way to do it. And that is by having mayors at the nucleus, because when mayors are at the table, we're going to make sure what? That we get things done. With that being said, I want you to know we're going to take our class photo at Independence Hall, all of us together, On that 250th anniversary of the vote, where it all started, that photograph, I need you all to join us to be in that photograph, because that is going to be the photograph that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren in the future will be able to see in textbooks. Finally, after that, we're going to move over to our renowned Museum of the American Revolution for also a globally televised program with the nation's most celebrated thought leaders, featuring Akil Reed Amar, Sterling Professor of Law and Political Science at Yale, and prize-winning constitutional historian and author of Born Equal, in a conversation about democracy in 250. America is going to be watching us all, and we really need you to be at the table. I want to acknowledge our outgoing president, Mayor David Holt of Oklahoma City. Thank you for your extraordinary leadership of this conference. And I want to welcome the man who is about to take the helm, our incoming president, Todd Gloria and Tom Cochran. Everyone will be with us in Philadelphia, but not just them. These are the folks who we know who will already be with us. Mayor Ginther of Columbus, Ohio, he's already committed. So has Mayor Maddie Parker from Fort Worth, Texas. My good friend Andre Dickens of Atlanta, Georgia. New Mayor Mary Sheffield. I'm not sure if she's here right now, but I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Santiago Avila of Deltona, Florida. Martha Guerrero from West Sacramento, California. And we are so looking forward to seeing Dana. Dana's going to be with us. Dana Ralph from Kent. Is that you over there, Dana? Give Dana a shout out. I see you over there, Dana. Marcus Muhammad from Benton Harbor. And Matt Turk, my fellow Pennsylvania mayor from Allentown. Is Turk, are you in the house? Give Turk a round of applause. Paige Cognetti from Scranton, and so many more. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. We want you to be part of this moment that will be documented in history. Now, after you've been in on the first and the second, if you decide in some way, shape, or form, if your children, grandchildren, your spouse, your friends, your partners, if they say we do have an opportunity to hang out and stay just a little bit longer, I want you to know that on the morning of July the 4th, I want you to join us for a celebration of freedom outside of Independence Hall. That is Philadelphia's signature America 250 event. And it's another event that will also be streamed globally. And let me tell you this, you're going to be inspired by the list of people who will be honored on that morning. That's the same morning that America's time capsule will be dedicated. Listen, contributions from every state, sealed for 250 years, not opened in our lifetime, not opened in our children's lifetime, opened in 2276. So I want a mayor from every state in that crowd when that happens. And on that evening, it wouldn't be right if you came to Philadelphia and we didn't have a good party, because we're going to have a party. And the mayors are going to have some fun. We will have our One Philly, a United City, One America, a United Nation Unity concert, and that is going to be broadcasted globally on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway in front of our art museum. Our headliners are Christina Aguilera. Christina, give Christina a round of applause. Homecoming for our own Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff. Yeah, that's hot. The Roots, we told them we don't care what you're doing that night on television. You got to be in Philadelphia on the 4th of July, so the Roots will be in town. Give it up for the Roots. Our own Jill Scott, who just released a new album. And we'll have some friends from the UK with us to celebrate. Seal himself will be in Philadelphia. And finally, you're going to laugh. You want me to tell you why? I don't know if you've ever watched her. If you've never seen Wanda Sykes, and let me tell you something, we're going to be laughing the entire time. She is our host. The concert is free. It's on the Parkway in the city where it all began. So we want you to stay as long as you can. Bring your family. We will never have an opportunity to have this moment again. This is your special personal invitation from me, the first woman mayor in the city of Philadelphia in 341 years, the 100th mayor of Philadelphia. So I want you to join us. Now, this is what you can do for me. Right now, if you have them. Let me take off these darn glasses so I can see who's following the instructions. Pull out your phones. Pull out your phones if you can. Scan the QR code and confirm your RSVP now. Scan the QR code and confirm your RSVP now. If you have any questions, I want you to feel free to see me or my team. There will be something for everyone here, especially if you have little ones, to those in middle school, to high school or college. This is an intergenerational celebration. I want you, while we are here, if you have any questions, if you need any special supports, you're going to be in Philly, and it's my responsibility to make sure my mayors are okay. And guess what I'm going to do? Cross every T and dot every I to make sure that the mayors are all right. With that being said, I want everybody to put one finger in the air with me right now. One finger. Now listen, this is for the gram. And listen, we're going to practice, because this is for the gram. Now listen, y'all know I know a thing or two about going viral, especially when you don't like if you misspell an eagle. So we got to practice this one time. When you see this finger up, I'm going to say, one Philly, a united city, and then one America, united nation. Are you all ready? All right, we're recorded. This one's going out. Let me hear you all say, one Philly, a united city, one America, a united nation. Join us on July the 2nd as mayors across America gather in Philadelphia, and we will make history again. I can't wait to see each of you. Thank you.
Please welcome back Conference President and Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, joined by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
All right. Governor J.B. Pritzker in the house, everybody. Let's hear it. Well, I want to tell everybody real quick how this came to be. You came through Oklahoma City, and some friends were kind enough. I know one of our mutual friends, John Kennedy's right over there. Right. Some friends of ours were kind enough to invite me to your event, and I walked you out, and I said, you know, this is only a couple months ago, I said, you know, we got this big gathering of mayors, and we'd love to hear from you. And I know it's a long way from Illinois, but man, if you could make it work. And you said, well, I got my budget season and all this. But you said yes, and here you are, and that means a lot to us, and we won't forget that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor,
very much
for being here today.
I know I was your fourth choice, so I appreciate that. No, glad to be here, really.
You are our favorite Illinois governor. There is no question. Don't worry about that.
Our favorite current Illinois governor.
Yeah, for sure.
A couple of them in prison still. Just kidding, they got pardoned. So.
Shots fired. All right, here we go. Well, first of all, we
don't do that anymore with our governor, by the way.
Well, first of all, we obviously have an audience of hundreds of mayors here. We think that cities are the chief cultural and economic engines of the country. Tell us how you view the role of cities in our nation's story and the role of mayors in our nation's decision-making.
Well, I guess I'll start by saying everything rolls downhill. So you all deal with the problems of the people of my state or the people of your states at the most local level. And so for a governor, anyway, I can say it means a great deal to have a partnership with a mayor to get things done because, we're passing budgets, we're putting programs in place, but the things that happen that affect people's lives really are happening right next to you. You're getting the call about the bus stop that's needed. You're getting the call about the homeless shelter that needs rebuilding or a new one that needs to get built. And so that relationship matters a great deal. The challenges I think that we face as a country are ultimately challenges that you deal with, again, on every block, in every neighborhood, in your cities. And so, what's important, I think, for me and as a governor is to make sure that we're working in concert with one another. We have, you go to other nations and you see that there's, the differences between what's happening locally, what's happening regionally, what's happening nationally in many countries. Really, it's all one government. We, of course, got built as a nation of people and counties and states that got together. And so we share power in many ways. So if we don't have that working relationship with one another, nothing gets done. So I just want to say how important the work is that you do. That relationship means a great deal to me. Sometimes governors and mayors have differences of opinion about things, but in the end, whether or not people are getting the services or the necessities that they need is dependent on us figuring it out.
Yeah, and we're aligned in our mutual respect and appreciation for federalism. And earlier this year, you reminded me the NGA and the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the other members of what we call the Big Seven, the organizations that represent the state and local governments. For the first time in 50 years, all of the elected leaders of those groups got together for a summit to talk about federalism, and that conversation will continue. But you were, in a sense, represented there by the NGA. You've navigated speaking of federalism, you've navigated significant federal-state tension in recent years, especially with the current administration. What have those experiences taught you, and what would you tell mayors who are trying every day to figure out how to represent and protect their cities in an environment where the federal government is sometimes hostile and at the very least dismissive sometimes to city and state governments?
Well, I think we would all say in this room, whatever political party you might belong to, that the federal government today is the least easy to work with, the most difficult and challenging to coordinate with that I've seen. And I've been in office for now 2 terms as governor, during the first Trump term, during the Biden years, during the now second Trump term. And I've been engaged in public life for a long time in other ways. The amount of help that we get, and I'm including the Biden administration in this, though it was different. Mm-hmm. But the amount of help that we get from the federal government these days, meaning, the coordination, how do you work together, what are the challenges and differences, and how do you work those things out? It's worse than I've seen it in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. And certainly right now, because we're almost at odds to a large degree, states and the federal government. That's not to suggest that Republican governors, let's say, don't have an easier time, because of the ideological relationship. But I talk to Republican governors who tell me they too face, amazing challenges from the federal government, and part of that has been, DOGE or the big. I call it something other than the big beautiful HR 1, we'll say. But I will say that so how I have dealt with it, because obviously the president has decided he doesn't like me, and I can't understand why. But it also because our city has been under attack, to be frank with you, even before we didn't have a good relationship. The president hasn't liked the city of Chicago. He's talked about it for a decade, how much he doesn't like the city of Chicago. And so somehow I'm living rent-free in his head. But here's how we do coordinate with one another and get things done. And that's at levels below ours, right? Where the heads of our departments or people who are working in our departments who for years have worked with people in the departments of government at the federal level, they talk to one another, or at least we have a cadence things just work in that way. It's not in every department, it's not in every case, but we try to work the relationships that way. Will people at the White House return my phone call as easily as, let's say, somebody at a department will return the phone call of somebody in one of my departments? No, but that doesn't mean that I can't, at least as a leader, make sure that in the management of my state that we're operating as best we can to coordinate, to make sure we're getting the grant money that we deserve, to make sure we're solving the problems. By the way, many of the problems, and my state is, I know everybody thinks it's just one big blue state, but it's not, and we have a whole lot of people who live in areas of my state that vote against my policies or disagree with me, and a percent of people, roughly 40-some% of people who voted against me. But our job is to serve everybody and the same thing for you. Your job is to serve everybody in your city.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have differences when we go, in election years and leading into an election day, but every day that we're managing our cities or our states, our job is to make sure that we're delivering for people even that aren't voting for us.
Perfect segue to my next question. So you may not even remember this, but I guess the summer of 21, we stood shoulder to shoulder in front of the White House after meeting with President Biden to talk about the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I was there, obviously, with Nan Whaley, and we were on a bipartisan basis advocating for it. You were there on a bipartisan basis advocating for it. And bipartisanship is intrinsic to our organization, and it's really important to us for the reason you just stated. We need to represent everybody. We bring together everyone in our cities, and we work together as mayors across partisan lines. We think the country needs a lot more of that. Before you leave, I'm going to give you a copy of the Oklahoma City Declaration, which has been signed by over 230 of our mayors, that really captures that ethos, and you'll know what I mean when you see it. But how do you feel about bipartisanship? And tell us your thoughts on that and how we can try to improve upon it in this country.
Well, I better feel good about it because I've got Republicans in my own family. My partner in business before I became governor, my brother is a Republican. And again, my partner in business and, of course, my sibling who I love. And so, from my perspective, it is very important to me to make sure that we're doing things in a bipartisan fashion. Not everything can get done in a bipartisan fashion, it's true. And certainly there's some issues where everybody takes sides and nobody talks to one another. But, building roads is not a partisan endeavor. Attracting business to our state, wherever it may be, is not a partisan endeavor. There are a whole lot of things that we do every day to get things done, and especially, I would say, between the governor and the mayors in my state. There are folks who, I guarantee some of these mayors didn't vote for me. Doesn't matter to me. If we want to get a new business into Mount Vernon, Illinois, the mayor and I are going to work like heck to make sure that that's possible. And making sure that we're spreading out the job opportunities and the investments that we make in our state, very important to me. When I came into office, Illinois used to be much more bipartisan than it is now, the legislature and the governor. And there was, by the way, we've had more years of Republican governors in the last 40 or 50 years than we have had of Democratic governors. And that probably surprises some people. But I think the relationship, the getting things done part of this, it used to, when I first came into office, I believe in bipartisanship. So I invited Republicans over to the governor's mansion. I still do on a regular basis. People would come. We talked through the budget. In my first year, we passed a budget I introduced, and we negotiated on a bipartisan basis. And I was so proud of that. That really is what I'd like to do every year. Something happened, that was 2019. Something happened in 2020. We could all, have opinions about what exactly happened in 2020, but something happened and it changed. And honestly, that people just felt like, and it wasn't specific to my state, I think it happened across the country, and it now has occurred that it's hard to get bipartisanship anymore. So I try to do it in ways that aren't about getting votes on every bill, although again, we just passed a Children's Social Media Safety Act. We just passed regulation on data centers and crypto and a few other things. Those were done on a bipartisan basis. So I just think looking for opportunities is what I try to do for us to sit down. Because as I like to say to my fellow Democrats, you know, this is hopefully funny to all of you, but you know, even Republicans have good ideas. And it's true, I'm sure, on the Republican side. Occasionally, even Democrats have good ideas. And so we ought to be listening to one another.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the first step, is wanting to do that, like wanting to engage with the other side, because too many people in this current discourse are like trying to make sure that the other side doesn't get a win. Even if you thought that was something you wanted, it becomes something you don't if you find out they want it. That can't be the first, you know.
And occasionally I'd like to run over to the Republican caucus and vote with them on a few things. I've got a supermajority of Democrats in my legislature. I love them all. But occasionally the Republicans are more right about something, and it's challenging for people to get together. Sometimes even when I agree with them, then all of a sudden they won't want to agree on that issue. So you know, we'll get through this period of time in our history.
One of the most important aspects of being a mayor is economic development, attracting jobs and opportunity to your city. I know governors have the same responsibility on a statewide level. Talk about how you've approached economic growth in Illinois.
Well, I was a businessman before I became governor, and I had not held other elected office before. And I really believe there's so much that you as a mayor and me as a governor don't know when you come into office, right? And you spend your first year or two just trying to find the steering wheel on the ship. But it's very important to me, anyway, to bring whatever expertise you already had coming into office into the job. And I feel like I came in and I told everybody I'm going to be the best chief marketing officer our state has ever had, and that I'm going to work very hard to bring business to the state. And I do, in fact, all the time pick up the phone and call CEOs of major companies, even when they're not announced that they're going to go do something new in another state, just to say, hey, we're here, and whatever it is that you're doing to think about where you're putting your next factory or moving your headquarters or a new assembly plant, whatever it is, that think of us. And here are the tools. And I worked with my Democratic legislature, Democratic controlled legislature, we got bipartisanship on this, on giving me a better toolbox for attracting business to the state of Illinois. And indeed, we've done a lot in that regard. And so we've seen, incoming, companies, wide-ranging group of companies, as well as now we are I think the leading quantum state in the country. That is, we have a quantum park. We've attracted IBM and PsiQuantum and others that are developing quantum computers and quantum sensing, quantum communication. But all of that, I think, in a bipartisan fashion, very important for me to make sure people understand Illinois is open for business. We didn't have that in Illinois, just to be clear. I found out when I came in, because I thought, for sure, I'll go talk to the people at the Department of Commerce, and we'll find out who's really the promoter of economic development for our state. So I went to the Department of Commerce and said, great, who are the folks doing this, other than the person I appointed to lead the department? And the answer was, what do you mean we don't have an economic, I'm not kidding about Illinois, we don't have an economic development group, which is frightening. And so I spent the first several years just building one. And now we have a real one that we call Team Illinois, and we understand how to go after companies and provide the workforce that they need, make sure they know we've got that workforce, we're training them the right way, make sure we're providing the electricity. We're a net energy exporter in the state of Illinois, the largest nuclear state in the country. So, all these things that are great for our promotion of our state and attraction to our state, that's part of my job and part of our job as governors, working with our mayors to make sure we've got the right message and we're all working together to sell to companies that are thinking about moving jobs to our states.
So last question, what is the most important policy issue facing you right now, and why is it housing?
Not to suggest anything.
Open-ended question.
Well, we're all, as you know, we're all facing this issue. And I'll just say, we have, the stats in Illinois are we've got a housing shortage right now of about 130,000 homes, and we need about 240,000 by 2030. So it's hard to do in a very short period of time, but it's doable. I think there are two things, because it's not, especially in these I think, challenging times for all of us from a fiscal perspective. We can't just write checks to build, to build housing. And we shouldn't, because a whole lot of housing is built with a lot of private sector dollars. So, and we want that. So the question is, how do you make it more attractive for people to build in an environment when all the building materials are more expensive? We've had inflation, significant inflation. We've got a shortage of homes. Prices have gone up. Mortgage rates are too high, et cetera. What do you do? What can we do? Because there's a lot that's not in our control. I think the things we can do are take the barriers out of the way, right? Just make it easier for both developers and for individuals who own a piece of property. This, you all have this in your cities and towns. People own a piece of property and they want to build a duplex or a fourplex on the property, and the regulations at the local level are just very, very challenging. And I know some of them are there for very good reasons. Some of them are there just for historical reasons and nobody's touched them in a long time. I think we all need to look at those regulations and ask, is there a faster, better way to permit, for example? And so those are things that we're looking seriously at in the state of Illinois, all across the state, thinking about, can we do single stair reform as an example? And there are people who think in some areas that would be too dangerous, and how tall a building can you do that in? There's also resistance, I think, to the idea that we should set a deadline on permitting time. But there are areas that don't have their own, a lot of internal staff to manage issuing permits. They're understaffed, and there's a greater demand than you can handle. So for somebody to have to wait, to build on a piece of property, and I'm talking about just building a duplex on a piece of property, to have to wait 2 or 3 years just to get a permit on something that probably ought to be much easier. Those are things that we're trying to work through. And then finally, we're providing assistance for people on down payments, particularly first-time home buyers, and making sure that we're providing infrastructure dollars to our cities so that you can make a property buildable that isn't currently, may not have the right utilities coming to it or enough. And so we're providing support from the state, and that we got passed in our budget just a few days ago, actually. So I'm proud of the work that we're doing so far, but there's a whole lot more to do, and we got to work a lot faster than I think government is used to working at in order to get to where we need to be, the 240,000 homes that need to get built across the state.
Absolutely. Thank you, Governor.
Thank
Let's
you.
hear it for Governor Pritzker.
Appreciate you.
Please welcome Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, Washington, D.C. Mayor Mariel Bowser, and Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson.
All right, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, and we're going to be on time during our session. Our panel will address one of the most challenging issues that is facing cities right now, and that is public safety. Job number one for any mayor is keeping our city's residents safe. And according to recent FBI reports, violent crime was down nationwide nearly 10% from 2024 to 2025, and that's because of the leadership of all of these mayors. In Atlanta, we certainly saw a drop in overall crime and in that time period. And in fact, from over the last 4 years, year to date, we're down about 50% in homicides from 2022 to 2026. And so we're really excited about that trajectory. And so that's good news on its own, but cities have addressed the crime challenges using different strategies. But one thing most of us have always focused on is how to make sure that our young people are safe. And that's what we have these two outstanding mayors here today to talk about. We have Mayor Muriel Bowser from Washington, D.C., and we have Mayor Cavalier Johnson from Milwaukee that are joining me to talk about how to use all of the resources that we have to keep our youth-related crime trending downward and how to steer young people away from bad behavior. So for this conversation, we'll keep it simple. I'll ask a few questions and they'll answer. So let's jump right in. You're up first,
Okay.
Mayor Bowser.
Okay.
Your city has seen progress in reducing violent crime involving young people. So what policing or public safety strategies have been most effective in driving those results, and why do you think that it worked?
Well, thanks for that question. I think for all of us, we just have to recognize, first of all, that our young people came out of the COVID era in tough shape. They were separated from schools, they were separated from doctors, their families experienced a lot of separation and disruption as well. We experienced more truancy, more kids disrupted from their regular school patterns. So when we experienced a spike in crime and violent crime in 2023, like a lot of us did across the nation, we knew we had to return our systems back to normal and really get our young people together. And so that's really where we've been focused. How do we make sure school and kids are returning to school? So we've seen some improvement to that. We've made sure our public health system is fully working and in person, so young people are getting the mental health supports that they need. We've stayed focused. Our parks and recreation folks who don't get enough credit in any city that I know are engaging. We're opening facilities, keeping facilities open and the like. But we've also been focused on prevention and accountability. They go hand in hand. And we saw some fall off on accountability measures around COVID and immediately post-COVID that we have gotten on the right track. And so I think we have to be holistic in our approach to young people, giving them opportunities on the one hand, like we put 12,000 of our kids in paid summer youth programming every single year. We have another 12 to 15,000 in summer camp every single year. Our public schools are making sure that they have a lot of enrichment programs across the city. But then we also have to hold young people, the small number who are disruptive, they have to be held accountable.
Yeah, I like that. Prevention and accountability.
Yes.
Same question to you, Mayor Johnson, about what strategies of policing and public safety that you think has worked and helped for reducing youth-related crime.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Dickens, and great to be with Mayor Bowser as well. I think Milwaukee and Washington, D.C. are reading out of the same book, because that's exactly what I practice in the city of Milwaukee. It's a two-pronged approach on public safety, and they're tethered by those two principles, accountability and prevention for anybody who causes incidents of, as I usually say at home, of death, harm, or destruction in our community. But as it relates to young people, what we've done in Milwaukee is really lean in on partnerships. It's a word that people probably are sick and tired of me saying back home, but I keep saying it anyway because it's so important. If we're going to address the big challenges that we have in our communities, it is important to understand that no entity, government, nonprofit, education, our parks and recs organizations, nobody can take it on alone. All of us have to work in collaboration. And so I've encouraged teachers, preachers, friends, mentors, parents to step up, to be engaged, to be a part of the process. And folks are stepping up. And we've got some really, really great statistics to show for it. In Milwaukee, a number of crime categories, including around youth, are down by double digits in our city, down from the highs that we saw in 2022 when we had some of the worst homicides, actually the worst year for homicides in our city's history. But those numbers are far down from where they were before.
Well, that's great. That's great. So it does seem like we're all reading from the same book. You have the accountability measures as well as the prevention. I often talk about policing and non-policing activities like the Parks and Recreation. You gotta love on the Parks and Recreation Department. They keep our kids busy. They have so many programs and everybody likes to go there. And then also the Summer Youth Employment, which actually I learned from you all. So we have young people employed. We have about 6,000 during the summer making a minimum wage of $15 an hour. That keeps them busy. They can earn while they learn. And I actually learned that from DC Summer Jobs.
Yeah.
That's a great program if you want to learn how to make sure that your business community is involved. So some of it comes from our city, but some of it is just encouraging your businesses, hey, hire an intern, keep them busy. So from 14 years old to 24 years old, we have a lot of busy young people employed, and they earn while they learn, so they stay out of trouble. We also created these places for our, what we're called at-risk kids, but we call it the At Promise Center. Mm-hmm. So we have 4 At Promise centers, and that's where mentoring takes place, sports. You can do your homework there. You should do your homework there. You know, you have a computer there, but you also get a meal for those low-income kids that don't have a place to go once home. It's not always the best place to be. You can wash your clothes there. You have good friends there, all that kind of stuff. So just giving activities has been helpful in reducing crime. One of the things that we also want to talk about, and I'll ask you this first, Mayor Johnson, is while addressing immediate safety concerns like the teen takeovers is crucial, long-term safety relies on systematic support. How do you balance immediate, firm interventions with the proactive, supportive youth engagement strategies needed to prevent violence before it even starts?
Yeah, that's great, and that's a question that, you know, I think all of our cities are addressing, right? With accountability and prevention. Again, if somebody causes an incident of death, harm, or destruction, as I say, in Milwaukee, then there's immediate accountability. You know, in the budgets that I produce and present to the City Council each and every single year, I make no bones about it. There is the maximum investment in our police department, right? 3 classes, 65 recruits each and every single year. Now, it's a challenge hiring police officers nationally. I think mayors across the room can attest to that, but we make that investment. In addition to the police department, we've got our Department of Community Wellness and Safety, otherwise known as the Office of Violence Prevention, which we also work to support in the city of Milwaukee. Working with other nonprofit organizations, we're really resource rich in Milwaukee. We've got one of the largest, if not the largest, Boys and Girls Club associations in the United States, in the city of Milwaukee. So we work to make sure young people are connected with that. I wear this wristband, YMCA wristband, because I got involved with the organization when I was a teenager. So we're sending young people there. I created, in addition to an Earn and Learn Summer Youth Jobs program, this is all in the prevention front, which we've had that Earn and Learn program for many years, a program called Camp Rise, where we're engaging with young people who initially were still in cars, as young as 10 years old. They were being recruited to steal cars. We created a program to have an alternative for those kids between 10 and 13 years old before they can even get a work permit. So we're exposing those kids to, you know, opportunities outside of the neighborhood, you know, caring adult mentors, making sure they have incentives to be engaged, involved in these things, and it's having outstanding results in the city of Milwaukee. But it's pairing the two together. It's accountability, and it's also prevention as well.
Yeah, same for you, Mayor.
Sure. Let me just offer a little different layer that I do think mayors and communities have to take on, because I see in our system something missing. And I will start with mayors and police chiefs and youth serving organizations. We need the ability to help parents who say this. How many mayors have said this, have heard this? I've tried everything. I can't do anything with them.
All the time.
Have you heard that, Mayor? Yeah. And so the issue that we have is we also can't do anything with them if the courts don't compel them to work with us. So we need a layer that is not saying that they have to be adjudicated for a crime and now they're in the system, but we need the ability for courts to say to cities, this child has to participate in these services. Here's the other thing that's more controversial, but I hear it as a growing sentiment among my electorate, and that is the government can't do it all. Where are the parents? And what role do the parents have to play with children who are repeatedly hitting our systems? So obviously, we want to give parents all of the support that they need, but we also want to understand how they are ensuring that their children are in school and how they are addressing children that are interacting with the police all the time.
Yeah. So this is a conversation that's being had, how to hold parents accountable. You know, the curfews that we have in place, you know, if you're dropping your kid off or letting them just go any and everywhere 30 minutes before curfew, you know you're setting your child up to be a curfew violator. We have to set the tone for the parents. The parents have to have some sort of citation, and if you get a number of those citations, it can lead to fines or other corrective actions. And a lot about requiring them to attend some of these programs. That's what we do at the At Promise Center. If you get suspended from school, we don't send you home anymore. We send you to the At Promise Center because you can go home and there's a whole lot of hell that happens at your home, right? Because sometimes your home is just as bad. So sending you home and you don't have the ability to have a stable home life, Wi-Fi, or anything else to keep up with your coursework, no, we sending you to the At Promise Center, and you'll go to that class, those places from 9 a.m. till about 6 p.m. and a coach and a counselor and everybody else can keep their eyes on you. And so this is a conversation we're going to have as a nation about how to hold parents accountable, what is the court's role, and we don't want to always lock up people and throw away the key and all that kind of stuff. We do want to help people get on a pathway to the right behavior, but these things are definitely worth noting in conversations. And the violence prevention, we have a Mayor's Office of Violence Reduction using the CVI methods and the violence interrupters, and that's been very helpful in some of these places. So I want to continue to see those things. And then policing is definitely important, making sure that you have all the things that are needed in the police force. So we have a little bit of time left. Do you want to talk a little bit about curfews?
That's all I talk about lately is curfews. So you started off the conversation talking about, and I avoid the term teen takeover because it suggests that the teens are taking over. And our job is to make sure that neighborhoods are safe and that the teens themselves are safe. And so about a year ago, and I asked the mayor this backstage, we noticed these large gatherings that were becoming destructive. And the children, not necessarily criminals, but when you got 100 and 200 of them together, a small band of them can turn destructive fast. And we decided to move an emergency curfew last summer because of a video I saw in conversations I had with our police chief, where we saw a group of kids go into a fast casual restaurant and just disrupt it for no real reason. And then there was another group that was doing the similar thing, and we saw bans across the city. And my big concern, again, mostly children who are not judicial involved kids, but together they were attracting a lot of police attention and disrupting peace and quiet in a neighborhood. And for us in Washington, we have a whole nother layer of threat that's not just about disrupting one neighborhood, but it could be disrupting our very autonomy. So making sure that we're keeping neighborhoods safe is a top priority. So how can we discourage kids from gathering 200 at a time with nothing really to do? And how can we have alternatives for them in whether we call it late night drip, or late night hype, where our Department of Parks may activate one of our pools or one of our larger recreation facilities, so that the government now, we're teen party promoters in some aspect, but it's fun for the kids and for all the kids that want to show up and have a good time. Now, you can't fight, you can't drink, you can't smoke, and we still have to make sure you get home safe. So it does continue, but we had one last night, and I'm looking at all the video today. The kids had a blast. But we do have the curfew legislation, which is a whole nother political argument that I'm sure we all have with our legislative bodies about what's the right policy. But at the end of the day, even when my council wouldn't act, I had to use executive power to make sure we had that one tool in our toolbox in place.
Good, good. Well, we're out of time. As you heard, some great ideas. We tried to cram a lot into this short amount of time. But thank you, mayors, for what you've been doing in your cities. You've been doing an amazing job at keeping down violent crime and youth-related crime. And those activities that you mentioned, hopefully mayors will be able to take those ideas and use them in their cities. And we have, I have midnight basketball. That's my late night program. And then our teen programs go to about 10 p.m. on those summer and holiday weekends. So hopefully we all can benefit and see this trend continue, where we've all seen violent crime go down in our cities, particularly amongst our young people. Thank you. Let's give it up for our panelists.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, the countdown is on to tonight's events. Nothing but a key thing, featuring Snoop Dogg and friends, as well as our Gavel to Gavel celebration aboard the Queen Mary. To ensure that your evening goes smoothly, we ask that you please review the bag policies, transportation, and additional information in the USCM app under the Explore section of the 94th annual meeting. My other bit of housekeeping is, if you keep hearing people loudly sing happy birthday, that is to my wife, so our apologies. Rachel's birthday is today. Feel free to find her. Yeah, thank you. Feel free to tell her that. Now, speaking of gavel to gavel, we have a big transition tomorrow. I am so excited for the presidency of Mayor Todd Gloria, and we're going to hear a little bit more about that from our CEO and Mayor Gloria himself. Please welcome our CEO and Executive Director, Tom Cochran.
President Holt. Before I introduce the 58th president I've served with, I just want to make a few comments. You'll notice that it's the 94th annual meeting and the 84th president. So you have to wonder what happened to 10 years. What happened to 10 years is Theodore LaGuardia of New York City served as our president for 10 years. And so we couldn't quite understand how that happened until we realized the relationship that LaGuardia had with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. For 10 years, he and FDR were buddies. And in the history of our organization, the President of the United States referred to LaGuardia, and his greeting was, "My dear Mr. President." And that's how FDR felt so much about this organization. So ladies and gentlemen, they said, let's have a better idea, and a mayor can only serve as one term. And so they gave him a new Cadillac, and we said goodbye to Theo LaGuardia. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand that this person I'm fixing to bring out will be America's mayor for a year. He will be the voice for you in the United States and throughout this globe. And I have gotten to know this man. And as my mother would say, he's a good person. He's kind, he's tolerant, he's tough, he's firm, and he has a great tone for what we need right now in this pinnacle year. So let's see the video.
I'm Todd Gloria. I am the mayor of San Diego, and I'm the incoming president of the United States Conference of Mayors.
When I was growing up, I didn't see people like me in political office or reflected in government. I get asked all the time, what are you? I'm a lot of things. Latino, Native American, Filipino, gay, but most of all, I'm a third-generation San Diegan. I didn't come from privilege. I came from grandparents affected by racism, but undeterred by it. At 14, I started volunteering for the Democratic Party. I rode the city bus after school, working for progressive candidates who I believed in. In college, I learned how to become an activist. Now I've been a leader in San Diego for more than 2 decades. My parents taught me that if you truly care about something, then you should leave it better than you found it. And that's what I want to do.
I love cities. I'm a city guy, you know. I love going to cities and watching people interact and seeing what's the same and then what's different. And then when I see the people who do that work, generally mayors, you can't help but want to support them. Mayors are superheroes, and the vision is to make sure that everyone understands that so that we can get more things done in all of our cities. As we do our work as a conference here at the national level, I want to make sure that folks who want to work hard and play by the rules can live in any American city that they choose. And right now, because of the high cost of housing, I worry that that is not necessarily possible. I think it's very important that the conference be laser focused on an agenda that is clear and that all of our members can support. And I think that that starts with more housing, safer communities, and lowering costs for Americans. I think when you put those 3 things together, you'll have a powerful agenda that communicates the priorities of cities.
Mayor Gloria will continue the thoughtful leadership that this conference expects and deserves, and he is very focused on making sure that as mayors, we're delivering real results for our constituents.
I think the housing is going to be our key, making it easier for us to actually build houses and use federal money, which is a real inhibitor these days. And so that we're not just changing a theme, it's carrying it on to make sure it gets finished. That says a lot about who he is as a leader.
I think the biggest priority that we have all faced is housing, and Mayor Gloria speaks a lot to this in the realm of homelessness and the challenges that they've had in San Diego and the really effective work he has done to curb homelessness, which I think is an example for many of us in many cities around the country.
Todd Gloria has incredible vision and incredible energy. I love spending time with him. Todd Gloria knows his city. He can actually pinpoint down to the number of days it takes to turn around a housing permit in San Diego.
California alone has such a significant shortage, but all communities do across the nation. And I think really thinking of how we can address it from a city perspective, whether that's land use policies, also just like temporary housing, like what are they doing to help get people into housing in San Diego? And I'm looking forward to him continuing that in his presidency.
This is not just an issue that impacts the coast or high growth cities. It's affecting, mid-sized cities and small towns across the country, and we need a national housing strategy and program and plan and resources to go along with it.
It is going to take all hands on deck to really address housing, and mayors have real experience. We've tried things that the federal government hasn't tried yet, and we've found solutions. And it is so important that we are at the center of that conversation on what the future of housing looks like for all of our communities. It is the greatest challenge we all face.
As mayors, we get stuff done, and as we see federal leaders really struggle with how to answer that question of affordability, I'd love the Conference of Mayors to be leading the conversation on how we can make things more affordable for working and middle-class American families, and I look forward to making real progress in the year ahead.
Mayor Gloria is so dedicated to professionalism, to thoughtfulness. I think that we're going to see real informed, intentional, thoughtful leadership from him.
He's going to succeed for a couple of reasons. Number one, certainly he has the resume of leading one of America's largest cities, one of America's most diverse cities. I think that experience he brings is going to serve him well. But I think the other thing is he is such a nice, approachable person. Whether you're 10 million people or you're 100,000 people or you're 30,000 people, most of our problems per capita are the same. And I think he will be able to translate that very effectively in his tenure.
What I like about Mayor Gloria is he's so kind to me. And I see his kindness to his residents, and I see his kindness to other people, particularly in this mayor's conference.
I understand the times that all of us are serving in, where we really struggle with our relationship with our federal partners, and we're at a time where all of us are being asked by our constituents on a daily basis, Mayor, what are you doing about, and whatever issue it is hard, and there's no easy solution. I understand that, and I believe that the way through this is together. We are stronger when our cities are united and when mayors lock arms and work together to solve big problems. We've done it before. We've passed historic legislation when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to funding our cities, to recovering from the pandemic. That's what this conference has done, and my vision is to make sure that this organization get the returns that we're looking for. It is lifting up your great work and letting people know that you are getting things done, that cities are where it's at, and that our country is stronger when America's cities are stronger.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 84th President of the United States Conference of Mayors, Mayor Todd Gloria of San Diego, California.
Thank you all so much. It is an absolute incredible honor to stand before you today as the 84th President of the United States Conference of Mayors. I want to begin by thanking my predecessor, Mayor David Holt, for his leadership over this past year. David, your steady hand has strengthened this organization and positioned it well for the work ahead. Can we get a round of applause for David Holt, everybody? To Mayors Gaylord Baird and Rickerman, I appreciate your willingness to step up and serve your fellow mayors, and I look forward to partnering with you and our trustees and board of advisors in the coming year ahead. I also want to thank the iconic Tom Cochran and the entire USCM staff for your service to America's cities and to every mayor in this room. And finally, to my fellow mayors from communities all across this great country of ours, thank you for the work that you do each and every day, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity to lead this great organization. Now, there are very few people who truly understand the weight of the job of mayor. Over the last several years, we have led our cities through moments none of us could have ever imagined. A pandemic, natural disasters, inflation, political division, violence, and grief in our communities. Many of us have gone from celebrating a ribbon cutting in the morning to consoling a devastated family later that same night. And in those moments, people aren't looking for political rhetoric. They're looking for steadiness, compassion, and leadership. That is both the privilege and the burden of being a mayor. As President Lyndon Johnson once famously said, when the burdens of the presidency seem unusually heavy, I always remind myself, it could be worse. I could be a mayor. And there's a reason why that line still resonates. Because mayors govern where life actually happens. We're the ones that keep the water clean, the streets repaired, the buses running, the neighborhoods safe. We balance budgets, respond when disasters strike, and answer directly to the people that we serve. And at this moment in our country, that kind of leadership matters more than ever. As I heard Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott say recently, mayors are literally holding this country together. There are moments in American history when national uncertainty forces local leaders to step forward. Moments when the world feels the absence of our national leadership. Moments when cities become the places where confidence in the future is either restored or lost. And that is the story of this organization. The United States Conference of Mayors was born during one of the hardest chapters in our nation's history. In 1932, Detroit Mayor Frank Murphy called a meeting of the nation's mayors because cities were struggling amidst the enormous burdens of the Great Depression, and Washington was not doing enough to respond. Now, it turns out that one of the things that nearly every mayor has shared over the last century is the experience of waiting for Washington to catch up to what cities are already dealing with. And I ask you to think about what those mayors were facing back then. An economic collapse, mass unemployment, breadlines and soup kitchens. And yet our predecessors did not agonize, they organized. They traveled together to Washington to demand action from the federal government. And in doing so, they made history and fundamentally changed the role cities would play in shaping national policy. That spirit, practical leadership in moments of uncertainty, has defined this conference ever since. And repeatedly, when Washington struggled to find consensus, it was mayors who found ways to move us forward. During the Civil Rights Movement, it was mayors who confronted our nation's deepest injustices. During the AIDS epidemic, it was mayors who rejected fear and stigma to help those who were suffering and dying. At pivotal moments in our history, this organization has led when others wouldn't, because our communities could not afford to wait. My colleagues, I believe that we are in a similar moment today. We are living through a moment of profound uncertainty. People are questioning whether our institutions still work and whether we can still solve big problems. And perhaps most importantly, whether or not the next generation will enjoy greater prosperity and security than the last. Those questions are showing up every day in our cities. Americans are anxious. Too many families struggle to make ends meet. Too many young people wonder if they can ever buy a home. And too often, our national politics reward outrage over problem solving. But mayors don't have the luxury of performative politics. The problems are too urgent, and our residents expect results. So while Washington debates, mayors deliver. And that's why local government remains the one that Americans trust the most. Mayors are trusted not because our jobs are easy, surely not, but because our work is real. And trust is built when people see their problems being solved. So over the next year, we will focus this organization on the real issues Americans discuss around kitchen tables in all of our cities. Like, can I afford to live here? Will my neighborhood be safe? Will our children have more opportunities? And under the banner of the Mayor's Deliver agenda, more homes, safe neighborhoods, and lower costs, we will focus relentlessly on practical solutions that improve people's everyday lives. First up, housing. Across America, high housing costs are testing whether working people can continue building their lives in our cities. And every mayor in this room has seen it for themselves. Parents wondering why their children cannot afford to live near them. Teachers commuting for hours because housing has become unattainable. Young families delaying their futures because they don't have the stability that comes from having a roof over your head at a price that you can't afford. And that has to change. And cities are already showing what is possible. In most of our communities, this isn't about right versus left. It's about builders versus blockers. And my fellow mayors, we are the builders. From Austin to Minneapolis, Miami to San Diego, mayors are reforming outdated codes, streamlining approvals, and employing new approaches in order to build more homes. And because housing policy is economic policy, it's workforce policy, it's climate policy, and increasingly, it is the defining issue in America. As mayors, we know our crime statistics, our homicide statistics by heart. Well, I want us to also know our permitting statistics and our home building statistics by heart. If housing is the defining challenge of this moment, then mayors must become the nation's leading housing advocates. Because as our cities get our own houses in order, we must challenge Washington to do the same in order to help us make a greater and deeper impact for our residents. I want to thank Columbus Mayor and former conference president Andy Ginther for charting us on a path to making housing a core focus of this organization. Give it up for Andy, everybody. And my friends, this year we will put the full weight of this conference behind passing the bipartisan 21st Century Road to Housing Act. This is our top priority, and we are so close. And I'm going to call on every single one of you in this room to help get this bill over the finish line. My friends, the American dream is not something that we inherit, it is something that we build. Second, safe neighborhoods. Residents shouldn't have to choose between feeling safe and being treated fairly. And across this country, mayors are making generational progress in improving public safety and reducing crime. Safety and trust are not competing priorities. Communities deserve both. And from Baltimore to Chicago, San Francisco to cities all across America, mayors are making progress because we stayed focused on the outcomes instead of the headlines. It's what mayors do. We listen, we build partnerships, we solve problems, and we never, ever stop pushing forward. But this past year, our progress and those partnerships have been tested. To quote my friend, Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer, you have to earn the trust in the people in which you serve. And that trust is hard to gain, and it's easy to lose. We saw that firsthand in Minneapolis and Los Angeles and in too many other cities across our country. And it was mayors of all political stripes who stood up and voiced their outrage as federal agents shattered the trust that we've all worked so hard to build. And after the dust settled, it's been mayors who've had to pick up the pieces. But as mayors, we didn't just talk. We put forward solutions. And this past year, I worked with Columbia Mayor Daniel Rickerman to put forward a set of common sense, bipartisan solutions to reform federal immigration enforcement to model the standards that we would expect out of our own local police departments. We will. I stand before you this afternoon, my colleagues, to tell you that we will continue to advocate for Congress to enact these changes. This conference will continue to stand up against hate in all of its forms, and we will speak out when our mayors and cities are being unfairly targeted, and mayors take it to the bank. We will have each other's backs against anyone who attacks our members and our cities. We're pressed for time, so number 3, lowering costs. You know, people don't experience the economy through headlines. We all know they experience it through the rent, groceries, and gas prices. And that means that local governments have a responsibility to respond locally. And cities all across this country are finding innovative ways to make life more affordable by expanding transit, creating good jobs, and increasing our housing supply. And we need to do a better job of telling those stories. And that's why this fall, we will embark upon a multi-state affordability tour to showcase how mayors all across America are tackling the cost of living crisis and delivering real results for working families. Because one of the greatest frustrations of this moment is that extraordinary work is happening in American cities every day, but not enough people hear about it. And America's cities are the engines of innovation, of culture, of economic growth, and of opportunity. They're where new businesses are created, where new discoveries are made, and where families pursue their American dream. And every day, mayors are proving that we can still deliver results. And so as we look to the future, mayors also have to have a stronger voice in shaping the national agenda. And too often, cities are treated as stakeholders only after the decisions have already been made. Am I right? Now, that has to change. And so that begins by preparing this organization to be engaged as we head into the next election cycle. No matter who occupies the White House in 2029, America's cities deserve a federal partner committed to solving problems alongside us. And for us to exert our influence, we must be at the table and engaged with all of those vying to lead our nation, because national policy becomes real first in cities. That's why this conference will begin laying the foundation for a bipartisan 2029 mayor's agenda, a clear set of priorities from the leaders closest to the people. And I'll be announcing a bipartisan task force to ensure that America's mayors have a unified voice in the national conversation, and that candidates of both political parties understand the federal partnership that cities need in order to continue to deliver for our residents. My colleagues, history has shown that in defining moments of this organization are the moments when mayors choose to lead during periods of national uncertainty. 1932 was one of those moments. The Civil Rights era was one of those moments. The AIDS epidemic was one of those moments. And I believe that this is one of those moments as well. Years from now, I want future generations to say that this generation of mayors met this moment, and that we chose competence over chaos, action over paralysis, cooperation over division, and that we choose to lead our cities with pragmatism, optimism, and partnership. Because at the end of the day, the people that we serve do not care about political theater. They care about whether they can afford housing, whether their streets are safe, and what kind of future their children will have. As you heard, I'm the proud son of a hotel maid and a gardener. Two hardworking Americans who raised my brother and I to believe that it is our responsibility in life to leave things better than you found it. My friends, I'm here to tell you that as president of this conference, I will aim to, over the next year, leave this organization better than I found it. And that will be expressed and seen by the people who are living in America's cities, so they see and feel that progress in their daily lives. And this work has never been about the headlines. It's always been about people. And for nearly a century, the United States Conference of Mayors has done the hard work of moving this country forward. And at a moment when Americans and our allies are seeking steady leadership that prioritizes practical, bipartisan solutions, it is this conference that must lead. Because when communities need results, it's mayors who always deliver. My friends, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you for granting me this incredible opportunity to lead this storied organization over the year ahead. And I just have one more thing to say to you. Let's get to work. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you for attending. We now stand adjourned.